What's going on, everybody? This week, we got a little something different for you. We got a little hoops talk on the Average Zoe Network. Got myself, Zoe, and my boy Trey, man. Trey, how you doing out there, brother?
Pretty good, man. How you doing?
Can't complain. You know, I would complain, but nobody will listen anyway. But, man, super excited to be doing this. We're going to try to bring this to you guys, you know, at least a couple times a week. Definitely no less than once a week. A lot of NBA stuff to get to. And we know there's a lot of hoops fans out there who are already listening to the Hip Hop Pod. So, you know, we're really blessed to have everybody out there. But let's just get right to it, man. NBA is back in full gear. At the time of recording this, the games are set for tomorrow. That'll be July 30th. Today we had 0 COVID tests in the NBA bubble. NBA is all being played, of course, inside of that Florida bubble on the Disney World campus. Again, 0 tests, positive. You're going to have an 8-game season. We kind of see what's going on with baseball, Trey. We see what's going on with some of the players opting out in football, namely the Patriots. What is your level of confidence right now, barring any type of catastrophe, that the NBA will be able to get through their whole planned season and playoffs in October, ending with the finals in October?
Well, the important thing is they've taken the time since they suspended play back in March upon Rudy Gobert testing positive and possibly spreading it around at that media conference, where they've taken the time to get things right. You know, people were clamoring for sports, especially I know I was through May and June, and it went from, you know, a few weeks to, you know, a month, 2 months, and then finally here we are. So I feel like they've taken the time to get it right. They've invested $170 million into this project to make this bubble on the ESPN Wild World Sports Complex in Disney World in Orlando, Florida. So I feel like with the quarantine measures in place, some of which seem, you know, crazy rigorous, I would say, I'm pretty confident that they'll be all right. As long as they, you know, it seems like they're doing a good job of keeping at bay, you know, the random people from coming in and making surprises and stuff like that. I think it's all pretty under lock and key. So I'm pretty confident. I'd say probably 95% that they get through this whole thing, if not more.
Okay. Giving Adam Silver a strong vote of confidence. One of the things you mentioned, even just, you know, prior to us getting on here, is just you were talking about even like the steps they've taken with the media, where, you know, media had to go through a 7-day quarantine themselves just before being introduced to the bubble. You know, a couple people are in a room with no window. So it tells you the level of, you know, care that they are handling this with. And it's also one of those things when I hear people talk about, you know, like, you know, whatever the subject is amongst this pandemic, you know, kids going back to school, you know, teachers are upset that a lot of the precautions aren't being taken. And I'm saying, hey, you know, you can't be really mad at the NBA. The NBA is spending the money, you know, and that's front and center. They're spending a ton of money, and I'm glad you hit on that, to make sure that these things are done, you know, in a succinct and organized manner. Of course, you might have your one-off here and there, but, you know, they seem to have a really solid plan in place as of this moment. So I give it a pretty strong vote of confidence. Based on what's happening in Florida and baseball, a little less than 95. I'm going to go with 85% sure, but that's still pretty damn sure that the season will go as planned. I think we're going to get to the finals. And man, I can't wait. I was skeptical. You know, I'm a little bit of a cynic. I was skeptical coming into this thing, and it's starting to look really, really good. Super duper excited. But you can't talk about the NBA, man, without talking about some of the matchups for this opening weekend. So, I mean, you're going to have just a couple games, you know, on opening day, the 30th, but you're going to have games all weekend. So, you know, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So let's just touch on a couple of marquee matchups. First up, the actual intro game back to the NBA restart season, man. We're going to have the Utah Jazz taking on the New Orleans Pelicans, and that's going to be a 5:30 Central start time. What do you think about that as the, you know, that's the first game we're going to see after that halt in March? How do you feel that this kind of ranks or scales as the introduction game coming back?
Well, it's the first game of a doubleheader on TNT, so I think they went with their best broadcasting crew to get it out there on that first day. So, and then as far as the first game, I mean, it's not that primetime slot, but everybody this season has been clamoring to see Zion play. He's come out. He did it in 19 games. He come out and seemed to put on a show in a losing effort against the Spurs. Everybody forgets they lost that game, but they still show those highlights, right? So,
Hell yeah.
so I think he's the future face of the NBA. If his health holds up, I mean, if these 19 games are any sign of what's to come, and I mean, he's already gracing the cover of 2K next year, the future edition or whatnot. So, that's going to be key, and I think that's one of the main reasons that the NBA did the bubble the way they did and brought in these extra teams to give them a chance to make the playoffs, because I think they were really going to try to cash in on this Zion hype on his rookie season while they could. So having him in the first game to bring all these interested people in, I think, is a no-brainer.
Yeah, man, I kind of agree with you. I wasn't super high on this game, just seeing it, maybe about a week or so ago. But people forget. I mean, the Jazz are locked into the 4 seed right now, and then Pelicans are on the outside looking in. But I mean, anytime that the week can showcase, a star of the future in Zion, I think is a good opportunity. I think it's going to be a pretty close game, just given the rust on both sides, and I think it is going to make for pretty entertaining television. I think Zion does have that star factor to just really pull in those views. And I'm excited to see it. I would have maybe liked to have seen that Rockets-Mavs moved up to that doubleheader. So maybe like Rockets-Mavs, you have them on Texas Central Time at 5:30, and then LA Clippers, LA Lakers in that later slot. That's my personal day one opener I would have loved to see. Kind of Christmas Day-esque type stuff. But, beggars can't be choosers, and I'll take it how it comes. Now, the game that everybody's really been talking about, clamoring for, waiting for, we got the Lakers-Clippers. However, there are quite a few missing players on both sides. So on the Clippers, we got Lou Will out, serving a 10-day suspension. We have Montrezl Harrell out. He had some family issues. And then we have Patrick Beverley that's kind of up in the air at this moment. We don't know whether he's going to play.
Yeah,
Lakers side, questionable. Okay. Lakers side, you have Avery Bradley, who opted out due to family reasons. One of his sons is immune compromised. And then you have Rajon Rondo, who's actually injured. Could possibly return if the Lakers, do make that deep playoff push. Out of these two teams, who do you feel like is hurt more by, the missing players? You think the Clippers, Lakers, who stands to, lose more here?
I mean, looking at both teams and looking at, I haven't seen the Lakers play personally, but I watched the Clippers on that first opening game of the scrimmages and stuff, and they didn't seem to have missed much of a beat. I mean, Lou Will was there that game. He's obviously the leader of that second unit, brings a different type of energy off the bench. Probably going to push for that sixth man of the year again. And, him and Montrezl Harrell were a huge part of that monstrous bench unit that they have. Like I said, those are guys expect to be back at some point. So just, it stinks not having them out there on opening day, but I think that they'll be all right in the long run. The Lakers will be interesting to see because I don't think they're quite as deep. It'll be interesting to see how they cope with the loss of Rondo and Avery Bradley. But overall, I think that they've got Alex Cruz over there, who's the Lakers legend somehow. But all hype aside, he's actually a really good defender. And, LeBron just has his way of kind of elevating people around him. So we saw it a few years ago. The whole Caruso thing reminds me of the Dellavedova back whenever the Cavs made their run back in 2017. So I can see him, kind of elevating his play and getting more minutes. And people on the Lakers rave about him, his defense, and his ball movement stuff. There's been some features on him recently, but so it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Who's more impacted though? If you had to say who's more impacted.
For this game, I'd say probably the Clippers. Yeah, I just think that they're going to miss that punch off the bench. They've got some young guys. That Coffee kid, he played well that first game, but I don't think they're going to have that. Yeah, I don't think they're going to have that punch off the bench though. And the Lakers, man, with who they have, they're so versatile, and I think that I think they should be all right.
Yeah, Clippers are missing quite a bit in that second squad. When you think about Harrell, Pat Bev usually starts the game, but just Harrell and Lou Will coming off that bench. I mean, that's a they would start for many teams. You know what I mean? So I think that's going to definitely be felt. I still will go with the point that you mentioned, though. Lakers are a lot less deep, so I think any missing, anybody missing in action for the Lakers is a much bigger hit to me. Avery Bradley was playing really, really well in those last few games that we saw. Coming out right before the season went on the hiatus. I was really, really encouraged by what I saw with him. And I think he was that missing piece in that starting lineup that you really needed, because he wasn't somebody that required the ball a lot, didn't have to necessarily bring it up. LeBron can bring it up, and he just will hound the other team's perimeter player. Missing him, I think, is huge. And then you had Rondo. So Rondo, great serviceable point guard vet who can take over games, not even scoring. He can control the flow of a game. So missing both of them, I feel like they are the more impacted team in this matchup. And then just given the long-term implications, because Harrell will come back, right? And I know we said, for this game, but Harrell will come back. He will come back barring anything crazy. And Pat Bev, will come back as well. Lakers may be without both of those guys for the long haul, and we don't know how Rondo's going to heal. So I personally think the Lakers stand to lose a little bit more in this, but it still should make for a hell of a matchup. I mean, we're here to see stars, right? You got Paul George, you got Kawhi playing, you got LeBron, and you got Anthony Davis. None of the other players we mentioned are the ones putting dollars in the seats, even though there weren't seats there, but.
Speaking of Anthony Davis, he's actually questionable for this game. He's got he's sustained an eye injury in one of those last scrimmages, so I think he's
he said he wants to go though.
Yeah, but it is questionable. You don't have an injury report, so got to mention it.
Very true. And we can't graze past this last subject without talking about one of the more notable subjects, Lou Will. Pretty avoidable situation, it seems. He just to give a quick rundown, Jack Harlow, rapper Jack Harlow, had tagged him in an IG post, I want to say, an IG story post at Magic City in Atlanta. Me, like a lot of other people, we kind of thought, once you're in that bubble, you can't leave. So it was really interesting to see, like, Lou Will had left the bubble without much publicity around it. We'd heard of every other player who kind of left.
Yeah, he had a family issue that he was going to attend, and I think he was on his way back that he swung through this Atlanta borough and was going in for some wings, supposedly.
Right, and so that's the deal. He said he was going in for wings, man. Knowing what we know about Magic City, just as far as, like, as a cultural iconic spot, you throwing this dude in the bell, man, do you think he was just in there for the wings? Should the Clippers be worried? I mean, because it is a bad showing of one of their more veteran presence on the team. What do you think, man? You throwing him bell?
In this case, I'm going to. So the family issue, there's a good article written on The Athletic by Chris Kirshner, who kind of detailed the situation and does his own research, if you will, into these Magic City wings. And he said that Lou Will is actually coming back from a funeral, I believe. So, far be it from me to tell somebody he can't go get his favorite comfort food on the way back from a funeral, so. Now, whether he's there for entertainment as well, that's not up to me. But so, is it avoidable? Yes, especially when you consider the ramifications. There's certainly not any risk of falling out of any kind of seeding or anything like that. I think they're pretty much locked at that 2 seed. They may make a push for the 1. I don't have the seedings up in front of me, but
they can make a push for the 1, yeah.
That just goes to show, though, the importance of, that the steps that the NBA is taking to make sure that these players stay safe and don't infect anybody else. They're taking the necessary precautions to keep this thing going.
Yeah, because all it really takes is one player, one player to is to throw the whole season off, goes back with the team, and then, whole team sick during the playoffs, or or at least just testing positive or asymptomatic. So I mean, I personally think, I was kind of a little dismayed at the point when the story came out, because I was like, man, Lou Will's a vet. I know he gets to the end of the season. He's a partier, definitely, well known throughout the league for being, the fun guy. But you just want to see a vet make better choices. Jack Harlow, man, and Jack Harlow was kind of dry snitching on him too, but I don't think he meant to do that. I think that was kind of just one of those, you're excited, you're having a good night, maybe a little bit of that sauce, a little too much maybe. And again, Magic City, great wings. It's not outside of the realm of all possibility that he did just go there for the food. This is not a normal adult entertainment club that you would be going to. This is, one of the more iconic spots in the country, let alone Atlanta. So, I think it's a possibility, but I think in that case, you got to send a friend. You got to send somebody else in there to get that for you if that's what you're really there for. You don't even want the look. Some things are all about the optics, and I don't even think you want to be really seen messing around in Magic City when we got some big-time, implications on the line as far as, heading for that title. So I think you really got to send the right message in that instance, and I think I'd like to see Lou Will hopefully make some better choices going forward. But I ain't mad at the homie for, trying to go in there and get a couple wings before he headed back. But serving a 10-day, he's going to be out for their first 2 games, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see what type of impact that has on, obviously their bench and just the team as a whole. Let's go ahead, get through some of these games, though, man. We have a full damn slate coming up. So obviously we went through those first 2. We got day 2, July 31st. We're going to have Sacramento Kings versus the San Antonio Spurs. We have Orlando versus the Brooklyn Nets. That'll be an early game. And by the way, shout out to the Spurs, our local hometown team. We have the Memphis Grizzlies playing the Portland Trail Blazers at 3. These are all Central Times. We got Phoenix versus Washington, Boston versus Milwaukee, and then we have Houston versus the Mavericks. So just to touch on 2 of those more marquee matchups, Boston, Milwaukee, give the quick rundown, Trey. What do you feel about that game? Who do you think is going to come out on top in that
one? Well, East is certainly more top-heavy. So at the top, you got the Celtics and, the Bucks, and then a few seeds down, you got the Celtics. Both real deep teams, and whose stars are coming out and playing well. That first, we watched one of the scrimmages with the Bucks, and George Hill looking locked in. Giannis is doing his thing, shooting a lot more. I think there were some issues on whether or not he was shooting over the break. It looks like he has been. He's hitting from deep more often, and I think he's taking advantage of the space that these perimeter defenders are giving him, trying to stop him from going to the basket. So. It looks like they've got some good chemistry going into this break. They're deep too, so they're one of those teams that can just let their stars get up the lead and then let that bench ride it out and stay healthy. And that just seems to be the way that they're going to approach these seeding games. Same with the Celtics, especially considering that Marcus Smart, Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, Gordon Hayward, and Jaylen Brown have only played 14 games together completely healthy. This Celtics team had a lot of hype surrounding it coming into this season, with the additions of Kemba Walker, trying to get Gordon Hayward back a season removed from this terrible injury he had at the beginning of last year, or 2 years ago. I'm not sure when that was.
2 seasons ago.
Right. So, just with some injuries with Kemba's knee and whatnot, it's been rough to try to get all of them on the court. Now they're a deep team and well coached and well run. They haven't suffered in the wins losses too much from it, but I think that they have a higher expectations of themselves, and I certainly think the media has of them, and certainly their fans too. So I think that they're going to take it easy. They've said that they're going to come out and try to give their young guys some minutes and just kind of stay steady, keep that seeding where it is, and look for the playoffs.
Yeah, man. I think Boston, I agree with you. One of the things people will know but forget, Boston is super deep. They're one of the deeper teams out of any playoff current playoff-bound team, East or West. That starting lineup is juggernaut. You got damn near 4 All-Stars coming out there. And then, once they worked Gordon Hayward into the starting lineup, I mean, that's just presents so many matchup issues when you have Jaylen Brown, Tatum, and Gordon Hayward all in the same lineup. And then you have Kemba Walker and whoever they choose to start at the 5, because that does kind of rotate in and out. I think they're a super dangerous team, kind of a dark horse, and could play spoiler for a lot of teams, especially where they're currently seated at that 3rd seed. If they were to drop back or even just stay where they are, I think they can really, really cause some potential issues. And again, I mean, they're the 3rd seed in the East. So, I mean, they are to be respected. But like you said, I think that really speaks to their depth when you say how many games, 14 games that they've played together total throughout those first 64 games. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy as hell. So when you think about that, I think Celtics are a force to be reckoned with. Houston, Dallas, that's going to be a great, great game. In my mind, I still have it as that Texas matchup. I'm thinking, oh, man, it's going to be right over in Dallas. No, it's in Florida. But I think the Mavericks, to me, it's the Mavericks are that 7th seed, but you obviously know in the West there isn't much space between a lot of these teams. I think that's going to be an interesting one to watch because I think that could be a potential first-round matchup. Right now they're currently at 6 and 7, but either one of them could finish. They could finish at that 5-4 spot, and I think that's where both of them are going to finish. That would be a great first round, a hard first round for either one of them, and I think both of them would love to avoid that. I'm still not really sold on the way Houston runs that offense. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like seeing Hart just at the top of the key running. And then with Eric Gordon now, I think that's a major blow for them. We don't know how long he's going to be out. It looks like a kind of minor injury to his ankle, but with these, these can be nagging, so we don't know how long he's going to be out. Luka looks great. Luka looks like the man with a plan. I'm all in on Luka. I see Dallas winning that one, but we'll stay tuned and keep it locked. You got Saturday, the 1st of August. We have a full slate that day. So you have Miami Heat versus Denver Nuggets. That's the early noon game. You got the Utah Jazz versus the Thunder. Then we're going to have a little Pelicans Clippers, Sixers, Pacers, Lakers, Toronto. What is the marquee game that stands out to you there?
I'm interested to watch Heat Nuggets. The Nuggets are a team that really didn't get most of their guys back and may not even still have them all back yet until right before scrimmages started. I think Jokic got in maybe 3 days before scrimmages started.
He was lean, man.
Yeah. So they had to end up running out just because of who they had available. They had to end up running out, I think, a starting lineup that included like 3 7-footers or something like that, something crazy because Bol played too. So, I mean, he's the kind of the sideshow right now. I'm not sure he's going to get reliable minutes. Speaking of Bol in the in the seeding games, but anywhere that Jokic is and can find somebody else who can finish around the rim, he's going to make those great passes. I'll be interested to see how they play because I mean the Nuggets were kind of disappointing at the beginning of the season just because they didn't get out to the hottest start as everybody thought they would after finishing last year at the number 2 spot or number 1 spot. No, but anyway.
Nuggets finished number 2 last year.
Yeah, right. So didn't start so hot this year. There was questions whether Jokic was completely healthy or completely conditioned when he got back in, but he's definitely looks the part now. They've got some good young pieces that that should keep them going. I'm interested to watch them, and then the Heat. The Andre Iguodala thing, I'm not sure it's going to work out or not. They just got smoked in what seemed to be the revenge game by Memphis this last scrimmage. So, but on the games that count, we'll see how they do. Jimmy Butler, obviously, he's a guy that can, really get hot and really push his team over the edge. So it'll be interesting to watch them go up against that Nugget squad that's also one of the deeper teams.
Yeah, you got to get your butt up for that game, too, on a Saturday. That one's at noon. So not a super early start, but, I mean, definitely a lot earlier than we're used to sometimes. I'm going to say my marquee matchup for that day is going to be that Jazz Thunder. That's the game I circled. So the one right after yours, that'll be on at 2:30. I think these are two kind of forgotten teams in the West. You have the Jazz on one hand, who I'm super guilty of always kind of forgetting them because they just kind of seem like a boring team. They had that Conley addition in the offseason. Didn't really go over as planned, but they're locked in at the 4th seed right now. So they're playing really, really damn well. And then, just kind of interested to see what that Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell dynamic's going to be like post-COVID-19, infection. And then the Thunder, man. The Thunder have to be one of the more disrespected, slept-on teams in all of basketball at this point. This was supposed to be kind of a swan song for Chris Paul. This was like a rebuilding year. He was going to just kind of ride off into the sunset, not worry about, contending for a championship this year. And once they acquired SGA and a few others and pieced that team together, they look really damn good, and they look like they could be a true contender. How far into the playoffs they push, I think, will depend on where they match up. Currently, if the playoffs started today, they'd be playing the Jazz, and I think that would be the matchup they would want in the first round. I don't think that they would want to have to play, the Mavericks or the Rockets first round. I think that would be perfect match. So depending on where the Thunder land in the playoffs after these 8 games, you just watch out. You know what I mean? They can make a little noise. They're super young. And, a lot of times a team that ain't been there and doesn't know how to act, it could be a team that shakes it up, They don't know if they're supposed to be scared. So that's the game I circled for August 1st. The Lakers Raptors was a close second. August 2nd, shout out to my little boy. That's his birthday, turning 3. We have another pretty full slate, so all of the gambling fans out there are going to love this. You got Spurs, Grizz. You got Wizards, Nets, Blazers, Celtics, Kings, Magic. You got Milwaukee against Houston. And then you have the Dallas Mavericks taking on the Phoenix Suns, man. Would you circle on Sunday?
For this, I had to go with our hometown Spurs versus the Memphis Grizzlies. Interesting situation the Spurs find themselves in on the brink of not making playoffs for the first year in 23 seasons or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And as it sits now, I'm pretty sure they have to win every single game in the 8-game seeding, and then hope that they have the Grizzlies drop a few in front of them. So every game is going to be Game 7 for them, and I think they're going to come out. But at the same time, I think that they're trying to get experience for these young guys too, especially if they lose one early or something like that. And I expect them to, get these young guys some runs. It already seems like they've been doing that in the scrimmages. DeMar DeRozan seems to have been taking a little bit of a backseat, and they've actually gotten some minutes for Keldon Johnson from Weatherspoon. Some of these younger guys have actually got some playing time. So we'll see if that trend continues. I expect DeMar to have a healthy dose of minutes and continue scoring at will like he seems to do. One of the things we'll get to later, talk about the conditions in the bubble and how without the crowd noise and stuff like that, sometimes players can get in trouble from jawing at the refs even after they walk off. So we'll see if some of that matters. I always feel like DeMar DeRozan is kind of those perennially disrespected, as far as getting no calls and stuff like that. So we'll see if these refs can actually hear his hands getting slapped every time he goes into the rim this year.
Yeah.
And then speaking of the Grizzlies, I mean, they're an exciting young team. They got some guys that are really, really playing well for them. John Morant, Rookie of the Year, probably. He's been just balling out. And then, let's see. They also got Jonas Valanciunas. He's a walking double-double, plays really well next to Jaren Jackson. They just got a big young team. They, get in your face on defense. Their size is going to be an interesting thing that I'd be curious to see how San Antonio handled it, since we're already missing Marcus Aldridge. You got Trey Lyles out with the appendicitis. We're going to have to get in, use Jakob Poeltl to his full potential. Maybe get some minutes for Tyler Zeller, who they picked up right before the bubble. It'll be interesting. That's the one I've got circled.
Definitely has all the potential to be a stinker of epic proportions. Shout out to Valanciunas, the Travis Kelce doppelganger. Man,
so disrespectful, man. Come on.
Say, since you chose a stinker, I'm gonna choose the Wizards Nets as the game I circle, just because I think that's gonna be an awful game. I don't know who's playing because so many players opted out on both sides. You have zero star power. Don't know why either one of these teams are there. Well, I know why Brooklyn's there. The East is so bad after the 5th seed that they are actually somehow not even 8th. They're the 7th seed right now. And it's going to just be these are the two teams that I see trying to literally lose out for that 8th seed. Who can get to the lottery faster than the other team? I think that's going to be one of the worst games that we've ever seen. It's just going to be awful. It's going to be awful, and it's going to have such a bigger microscope on it because of the fact that there's only 22 teams playing right now. That is not a nationally televised game either. It's going to be on the Yes Network, which is one of those East Coast New York networks, so that's good. But I definitely think that's going to be a real stink fest.
So who's playing in that? Who's not playing in that?
I have no clue. We know who's not. We know Kyrie's not playing. We know KD's not playing. We know John Wall's not playing, and we know Bradley Beal's not playing.
That was disappointing because Bradley Beal has single-handedly put that team on his back this year, it seems like, and just drugged them into that position where they are now. So to hear him opt out was disappointing. I know it's to get his shoulder healthy, I believe. It'll be interesting to see them going forward whenever he gets actually to get John Wall back on the floor to see if they can bounce back. They've got a lot of plans to try to get that ship righted, and it looks like they have the pieces to do so if they come back healthy.
Yeah, I don't think Bertans is playing either, is he?
No, he's not. He chose to opt out and save his health for free agency.
Yeah, which he's going to get paid.
The way he played this year, he's played himself into a contract. So,
damn you, Morris. Damn you. Definitely miss Bertans, man. All right. So, I mean, all in all, we have a pretty good idea of, kind of what to expect for this opening weekend. We've seen the games, albeit, preseason games, technically exhibition games. They were, full-fledged 10-minute quarter games. All in all, what did you let's just talk about kind of the atmosphere and just maybe some things we would suggest. I'll go first on this. I actually was surprised at how much I did actually enjoy, the scrimmages that went on. I really thought it was going to be, different. And the pace was really cool because the pace I felt like was a little bit more high tempo than it normally is. Just because, the fans do play a part in a lot of times that, tempo going back and forth because you do have to account for them. Without them there, it did just seem like a really frenetic pace. Sometimes the ball even seemed like it had too much air and stuff in it because they were just fumbling the ball everywhere in some of those games. You could see a little bit of the rust, which was pretty cool. One of my suggestions going forward, I like the court, by the way. I would hope that maybe they'll let people purchase like a $5 like a webcam pass so that, maybe geolocation turned on your computer where you can actually pump real authentic, noise for whoever the home court team is, so that way that still kind of does reign supreme. So I think, me, you here, you're at your computer, you turn your webcam on and everybody gets a little bit of sound and we can, defense, blue, and real live noise would be my suggestion for the NBA. I would love to see that happen. But how did you feel about just kind of that opening week of scrimmages and just the overall experience?
Pretty good, man. I was hyped up going to that first game, and the Clippers just came out and balled out. And, like you talk about, crowd noise plays into momentum and stuff like that. And I think they're still experimenting on exactly what they want to do for the sound presence in those buildings. But regardless, the way that they place the microphones and stuff, since they were able to essentially custom design these courts for what they wanted, I know they have like 30, I think I heard them say 36 microphones under the floor, which I know there's one right under the free throw line because it seems like it sounds like a sound check every time they dribble at the free throw line. So I could do without that one. But overall, thinking about the atmosphere, you can hear a lot of player chatter more often, which is cool because as a basketball kind of purist, I enjoy that. It'll be interesting to see kind of what they continue to do to adjust that. There were some issues with the court as far as like people running out of bounds and stuff because it seems like the color change isn't very obvious. So maybe I think They said with the actual games, they're going to switch out the courts to have like a home court for each team. You know, whoever's got the home has their colors on the floor and stuff like that, I think. So we'll see how that goes. And then overall, just things in the bubble. I mean, if it seems like there's a lot of games we've talked about just in the first 3 days, it's because there is. I mean, the next 2.5 weeks, just during the seeding phase of this bubble season, there's going to be at least 4 games every single night from now till like August 14th. So it's going to be crazy and it's going to be great. I'm going to love every minute of it. But it's a lot to take in, and that's why we're here to try to break it down and make it a little easier to find these games and to watch the ones you want to watch.
Yeah, no, that's a fact, man. It's going to be, like you said, super duper interesting to kind of see just how it all plays out. And again, first 8 games are going to be played, I mean, back to back to back to back to back to back to back. So there's really not going to be a whole lot of rest for the weary going into the playoffs, or at least, going in to finish the end of this regular season as pedal to the metal. So
that's going to about do it for this episode. I hope you all have a great first weekend of NBA returning. Tune in next episode. We're going to break down some of the games coming up for the next early part of next week. On Monday, we got a doozy coming at 5:30. Grizzlies versus Pelicans. 2 of the younger teams. You got 2 guys who were in the Rookie of the Year debate, even though it's questionable whether or not both of them should have been, with Zion versus John Morant. Is it much of a debate anymore? And then so we'll see who comes out on top of that. We'll break it down for you next week.
All righty. Hey, well, it's been a pleasure, man. We'll be coming back again with another episode next week, and then we're hoping to come out strong with the 210 Hip Hop Unfiltered as well. So keep looking for more content. If you like this episode, definitely like, subscribe, so you can get a notification when we drop another session of the Hoop Talk, man. Till next time, peace.
Later.